Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ravinia Festival. Please note that the taking of photographs, including the use of camera phones and the use of audio or video equipment, is strictly prohibited. As a courtesy to the artist and your fellow patrons, please ensure that all mobile phones, pagers, and anything with an on-off switch have been silenced. We appreciate your consideration. Thank you for making it a great day at Ravinia.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for being here on a smoky day. So I'm glad we're inside and ready to hear some beautiful music. If I could please ask you all to take out your cell phones, silence them, turn them off. We would all very much appreciate that. This masterclass this afternoon is led by the one and only Miriam Fried. You have her bio in your program, which lists her many accolades throughout the years. But I wanted to come up here and let you know about her legacy here at Ravinia Staines Music Institute. Miriam has been the program director for our Piano Instincts program for the past 30 years. She has really molded this program into what it is today. We have seen over 1,600 fellows come through all of our programs, and I'd say about more than half of those have been specifically for piano and strings. These fellows who have come through here have gone on to incredibly prestigious careers as performers and educators. We've seen so many back here at Ravinia on the Pavilion or in the Martin Theater. And so much of what Miriam has brought to Staines and to Ravinia is really showcased by these incredible musicians and what they share back to us about what it has meant to learn from her, to be in this incredible environment that she has created for these young artists. We are indebted to her. We are grateful for all of her many years of leadership, and we will certainly miss her as this is her last summer as a program director. So with that, I hope that you will all join me in very loud, warm applause as we welcome Miriam Fried onto the stage.
Thank you very much, and thank you for coming. Welcome. And I think without any further ado, thank you, Alejandra, for the nice words, but without further ado, we'll just go to the music because it's the best. So enjoy. absolutely beautiful. And clearly you have a very good feel for it. A couple of things that I would like to work on. Sometimes it feels as though you're headed somewhere, and just when you're about to get to it, you back off. You know, and it happens, you know, too often for me not to mention that. You know, I think that when we play a phrase, we have to see the shape of the phrase from the beginning to its end and understand its shape from beginning to end, and to make sure that from the beginning we know where we're headed, we arrive at where we're headed, and then we usually come back from there, right? And I think that's a very important thing. The other thing that I think is that you have a beautiful sound, you could use it better. I think that the colors of the harmonies are essential here, and the harmonic changes are extraordinary. And so just to have a beautiful sound isn't really enough. And so you need to have a sound that describes specifically every detail that we have. So let's start from the beginning. Now, the first gesture goes T, right? T. So what does the F sharp do? Well, but it also, I think, makes the E more special. You know, if... This is going to be tricky. I don't know how to talk and play. That thing. You see, if you went, it would be ordinary. This, so there's something so tender about that, right? And there. Now, you go all the way there, right? So, this is the first time that you go uninterrupted. Can you hear me when I speak without that machine? I'll do it that way. So, you see, that way, you explain that there was something special about the way we got to the E, but then we go to the A without it. Right? Now, could you show me what you feel about that and also this? Both, right? So there are two sides to it. Right? Can I ask why you start up?
I think just like the uplifting feeling of it.
Okay. What about the grounded feeling of that? You see, I mean, there's something about... And this... I mean, it's fine. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
But I'm just curious because I see it seems to be the fashion this summer. When it's starting everything up, and I'm just curious why it is. Okay. So what comes after that?
Okay.
Right? Because you see, nothing ends there. So this is the first example of what I was talking about, right? Where are you headed? Where is the place that you will have a breath?
The E. Okay.
Well, it's a ways off, right? So see your trajectory. So you want to let go a bit, that's fine, but so you can reach here, right?
Yeah.
And I think that it's important to see the big picture first. You put the details into the big picture rather than construct the big picture from a lot of little pieces. A puzzle has a frame, right? And we put it inside the frame. And I think that it's kind of that way. Okay? So this, now when you have this F sharp E has been pivotal in this theme, right? You had, right? And I think you need to remind us this is still the same part, the same idea, right? Can you start right when she comes in? So what is the second one? You know, what is the harmony here? When you play the first E is 164. This is 5/7. So finally we get to a cadence. You say, not me. No, not going.
Yeah.
Right? And I think it's important. You know, because this is, you know, it was long. We had many parts. You know, you need to mark, you know, finally we have a cadence, right? Now, one other thing I want to mention, and that's vibrato. Two things about vibrato. First of all, that vibrato is a tool, and that I am not interested in hearing vibrato. I'm interested in hearing a perfect sound, right? So that's the one thing. So if you want to change the sound, and you change the speed of the bow and perhaps the weight or contact point or something else, you have to change the vibrato. Because if you don't, it doesn't fit. And then I hear, and I don't really want to, right?
Yeah.
Right? So you need to really have also a sense of the shape of your coloring, and really be constantly aware of the speed of the bow and the weight of your arm, the shape that you're creating with your arm, and that kind of is reciprocated with the vibrato, right? So you don't want it to be, you know, constant.
Yeah.
All right?
Okay.
One last time, promise, and then we go. right? So you just had a cadence here in A major, and it's like, what? Why am I here? I'm not supposed to be here. You see, and you need to say that, right? We are in a piece in A major, we just cadence in A major, and in 2 bars, all of a sudden we are in E major. It's a very strange modulation, right? You need to acknowledge it. And then he says, no, not a mistake. I'll do it again, so you know for sure. I meant it, right? It's very strange, not what normally happens. I think you need to comment. You see, our job when we perform is to understand what's in the music, to connect what we understand with our emotions, and communicate all of that to the listener who doesn't know ahead of time that this is what's going to happen, and that's going to happen, and that's going to happen. So when you feel, oh wow, why am I here? You have to figure out, how do you say, why am I here now? Right? How do you play that? So if you just play, it sounds like, okay, it's, same stuff, right? So somehow it doesn't seem special enough. I think you need to find a different color for it. I think you have to react to the fact that the left hand of the piano goes down. So there's a discontra emotion of the arpeggios, and really play with that, right? And and the harmonic rhythm is also important. So you have suspension of 2 bars, and you do it again, right? So can you do from the first thing of triplets? Yeah, I would say you have a series of sequences. This is the first one. This doesn't belong in it. So mark that because you do it, right? What is the function of those triplets? Yeah, exactly, to lead you there. I don't hear it when you're playing, I hear it when you sing.
Yeah.
Let's try this one more time. I think sound has to have purpose, right? Now I'm traveling. Now I'm playing a cadence. Now I'm expressing the innermost feelings of my heart, whatever it may be, right? This, I think your sound is not specific enough.
Okay.
You're playing softly, but I want to know softly what. Okay?
Okay.
Can you match this sound a little better with her left hand? I think a little more depth there would not be bad. Just play right there. Yeah, and when you get off, right? Okay, good. I just would like to say one thing about sound. I think that no matter how soft sound is, it has to have clear purpose. And I hear in this E major cadence a little more generosity than I hear in your sound. I hear a sound that's a little, left hand with me. There's depth in the piano, and if you play very thin, hard to hear the connection.
Okay.
Right? So can you try one more time? Okay. Yes to the accent, maybe not quite so violent, I would think, but the way you finish the note, it has no more motion left to it, and it has actually no more energy to the sound either, right? And so you're doing rather than because it is again about the harmony, and the harmony is here and there. It's just passing notes, right?
Yeah.
Can I ask you to talk to them here?
Okay.
They're here too, you know, and you need to really, you become so introverted that the sound is not traveling. You see, and I don't think this, by the way, this also up. Okay, you know, travels, this doesn't. Right? So you need to, if you're not playing with a lot of weight, you need the speed, and you need to be thinking that you are pulling the string, right? If you're not pulling the string, it doesn't resonate, right?
Yeah.
The harmonic, but I want to hear the, and I don't hear it. There's no connection, right? So either not a harmonic, or if yes harmonic, then move the bow, right? So that there is, because this is very resonant and is not.
Yeah.
Right? Right there.
Yeah, that's really the E. Okay.
See, this has two really intense. Play with me. It's not just one, it's both. Right? And so the more you spread it and make tension, you know, the more relaxation you're going to have. Right? So really feel that cadence. These cadences are so important. You know, first of all, they finish sentences, you know, and it's important to divide a piece into sentences. It can't just go from beginning to end uninterrupted. That is impossible because, you know, we can't really understand it. You know, but something about the character of these cadences, that they're so gentle and so lilting and so beautiful, you know. So enjoy them. Enjoy every detail. There's so many details in this piece. I mean, on the surface it seems so simple. You know, there are a few notes. You know, it's not difficult, you know, in a sense of having a lot of passage work. But, you know, it has so much detail that is, first of all, just beautiful, but also contributes to the storytelling, you know, so really pay attention to every single one of them. Can you play from that D? Standing 4 feet from you, I think. 5. Can't hear you. If I can't hear you here, who can hear you? You know, and there was a famous singer in Bloomington, Indiana, when we were there, and she was famous for saying, "My dear, nuance starts when I can hear it." You know? So, you know, soft like this, it doesn't do anything because we can't hear it, so we don't know, right? And I mean, yes, sometimes you want the audience to strain to hear, but not that much.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And by the way, I don't hear the D either. You know, those little details are important, right? Because, you know, I mean, there's a change in a D, you know, it has, and then, whatever, I can't play all of those parts, but you see, you want to really pay attention. Because she could have played by herself and the music almost would have been the same, right? So what is it that happens?
I feel like it's like a beacon of light that comes in.
Okay,
in a
but
different
this
voice.
is a beacon of light that's going through a lot of harmonies. So you have, what's a harmony at the beginning? Next. So it is transforming, transforming, transforming until it gets and it's still a D. Now, right? Only there is it moving away from being a D, right? But the D is changing, and I don't hear that your sound is changing. Getting louder, that's not changing, right? So you need to really acknowledge the colors of the different harmonies here. Right? Right there is mine. I need a complete change of color. And I need a sound that will say, wow! Literally, that. I didn't hear it. To do from low speed what? Faster, slower,
Faster.
what? Faster, vibrato?
Faster vibrato.
But you didn't do it.
Okay. Yeah.
So, you see, you get more tense in there. Right, so get more tense, right?
Yeah.
When I have a smile. I don't mean you need to smile. You know, that's okay. You know, I don't mean that. But we need to smile. And you have to think about how you're going to do that. I think the difference in the color is big, much bigger than you're doing. I think in general, this movement may be very gentle, but it is not little. And I think that there is a fundamental difference. This is not a miniature, you know. This is, in fact, a movement with a grand imagination, certainly. And, you know, in terms of harmonic structure, it's a big movement. It's not a little movement. And so I think, you know, playing with a tender sound is wonderful. That I don't object to. But the sound has to be very specific. I don't think it is always tender. And I think that in order for us to understand tender, we have to have a sound that's not tender at some point, you know, so that we have the contrast, you know. And I think, I really do mean, talk to them the whole time. You know, no matter how intimate it is what you're playing, you can't be intimate. I'm playing for myself. You know, it has to be intimate performance, okay? And in performance, there is the aspect of, there are people sitting far away and they deserve to hear the same expression as those who are sitting right here. So, you know, you have to figure out how you're going to do that. And I think that you are a little bit too much taken by the fact that it is in a way intimate and in a way very tender, you know. And I would like you to preserve that because it's beautiful and it's right, and yet have a little more, first of all, contrast, but also a little grander conception. Okay?
Yeah.
So can we do that one more time? Let me go. You see, this is something for exploration and experimentation, you know, and that you need to go home and tinker, you know. I mean, I think the greatest fun part of practicing is exactly that. Find the right sound, you know, and you try many, many different ways, you know. I mean, there aren't a million options, you know, a million would be a little, you know, scary, but there are enough so that you really need to try and see it. You know, I suggest that you do it separately, not go to the D sharp from the C sharp, but first find the sound for that D sharp. Imagine a beautiful, open, sunny B major color, you know, and find the D sharp for it. Then when you know what you want to do and you know how it feels with the arm, then go back, you know, and figure out how you get from something that is intensifying and then let go of it, you know, and play the D sharp, okay? So, you know, we'll leave that. Let's go on. So this is another example of you don't finish. It goes to here, so if you do, you know, something is missing, right? It doesn't have to be loud. It just has to lead to the natural resolution of something. You can't just leave me in the air and then, no, I'm not going to tell you.
passion to it.
And what is it about it specifically that interests you?
Where it goes, like how it transforms.
Yeah, but what about, how about the interval? Right? You know, so make sure, an interval is made of two notes. So you have to think about what is the sound of the two notes in order to create whatever relationship you wanted to have, you know? And then you have another tritone, but in a different, you know, constellation. So you need to figure out what is the sound of that one. And then again, that's very typical, that kind of relaxation that comes with the cadence. Okay, so can you do one more time? Unfortunately, we don't have any more time. So, and really, time flies. Let me just summarize. You play beautifully. You really do. And you feel the music deeply, which I love, you know, because eventually that's all that comes. You know, I would suggest to you that you look for the structure and the harmony of a piece, not to then play the structure of the piece because, you know, that's not what you want to communicate, but to use that knowledge in order to hone your ideas and figure out how best to express the emotions, because the structure and the harmony are central in creating the emotions, okay? And so just think about that as a tool to help you better express that which you want to express. What you want to express is great, it's fine, you know? Okay, bravo.
Thank you so much.
that you couldn't hear me, so I'm going to use this. Bravo. Beautiful. I have to speak about balance because, of course, I was sitting inside, so I don't know for sure what the balance was in the middle of the room, but where I was sitting, I had a real problem hearing the violin. And watching her, I think she was making sound. So, so I think it's really about the register that you play in. You know, if you play way lower or way higher than the violin, I think the violin is okay. But when the registers overlap, there's a problem. And I think that's important. But also, I think you just need to listen, and it's not enough that you hear her. You have to hear her in the right way, right? And so I think, you know, I could hear the cello actually better, which makes me wonder if I had the right perspective, you know? But that's where I was, so that's what I know. You know, I can't really tell more than that. I think in any case, you need to be a bit more careful. You know, I mean, for example, at the very beginning, you know, obviously you need to play big, but I do want to hear the strings, you know, and I lost the violin pretty much after the first note, okay? So why don't we start from the beginning? This is obviously a very energetic movement, you know, but I'm not 100% sure that you want to rush this first statement so much, right? I think that, you know, if you see la 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 rather than da 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 da, you know, then maybe you can find something other than rushing it to find strength in it. So let's start from the beginning. So, did we expect that note? I mean, it's a shock, you know, and I'm not sure that I'm hearing the shock, you know, and then when the F remains alone also, you know, for a minute, you know, what do you want me to hear? Because da, it sounds a little flat to me. Can we do it again? Yeah, so we have this moment of what, right? And I think you need to feel when is that moment over, right? Before you go on. So I don't think it has to be first of all. But then when you get back to where you're actually supposed to be, right? You know, it should sound a little bit more generous, I think, right? So the transformation of sound and the transformation of motion especially, I mean, we're totally stopped in our tracks on that F. And then this has a lot of motion. You know, I think you really need to take a moment to transform that difference, you know, and I'm not quite sure that I hear it, right? Yes, I could imagine hearing a little inflection on the because if you do it's hard to really feel the meter, right? So both of you, also when you come in, you know, I could imagine hearing much more of that. And you can also shape the meter with your accompaniment, right? Can we do it from the F sharp? Yes. again, there is a harmonic transition that is out of the ordinary, you see, and I think that's what we need to acknowledge. You know, I mean, I understand that being in a B minor momentarily in a D major piece is not revolutionary, but it is a difference. And so for that moment, you know, it's almost like a cloud comes over, you know, and I think the color needs to change. You know, we need to understand that something happened. Same place. Okay. Is this the end of something, or is it the beginning of something? What? Can it be both? I mean, it can be both, but you can't play both. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's right. It is both, in fact. It's the end and it's the beginning, but we can't play both the end and the beginning on one note. I don't know how to do that. If you can tell me, I'm glad to learn, but I don't think we can. So you have to choose.
So I would say the beginning of something.
That's right. And so I think the placement of that needs to indicate that it's not dim bum bum bum, but dim bum right? And I think that the impulse that you have to put on that note is quite different because of its function. And, you know, I mean, here is the issue that forever seems to be in question. Is it okay to take time? So the first answer to the question is yes, for sure. But the second answer to the question is a little bit more complicated. So if I say take time, you're going to just stop. You know, do I want you to stop? No. I don't want you to stop. I want you to take the time that it takes to prepare a new gesture. So if you need right? It's going to be different from tim bum bim, right? And so however much time that switching of gesture takes, that's the time you take. And that time is fine. Okay? Okay, so, tim, bum, bum, bum. You know, I'm standing right here. I can't say that I really heard you. I heard something, yes. So again, just like I was talking about the Schubert, the question is not whether you heard it. The question is whether they heard it, you know, and you have to learn to assess. I mean, this is our problem. We don't exactly know what it sounds like there. And we will never know, because you can't be here and there at the same time. Recordings are not good, so you have to rely on other people telling you. But you can also learn to assess, and you have to think about it, because it is a question that is crucial, you know, because if they can't hear you, it's not there, right? And I think that, you know, because, I mean, the piano is bigger. I mean, we can, you know, there's nothing, you know, to do about that, right? And its ability to project is far greater, right? So you have to assess how much, you know, it says piano, maybe you need to play mezzo piano or maybe even mezzo forte for the totality of the sound to be, in fact, piano, right? And you just have to judge, you have to be interested in judging. Okay, Okay, so you have a 2-bar phrase. You don't. You have a 4-bar phrase. So so if you start the same way as he does, the trajectory of what you did is 2 bars. It'll be done. And then whatever you have to play sounds like a tag on, right? So you have to start from the beginning knowing that. And maybe you thought you were doing it, but certainly not enough. Yeah. Where is there the surprise? On the B. Right. So you need to mark that. You see, you can't expect us to figure it out. You see. Same thing. Did something new start? Yeah, but we just went right on. You see, I mean, it's just like in speech. You do have to take a breath between things, you know? And full stop is going to be longer, comma is going to be shorter, but you do have to take a breath, you know? And I think that figuring the breaths into your performance is essential. You see, because then it starts differently. It really does. And we need that because that's the explanation of what's happening, right? And it just went right on. So I don't know where you want to start, a little before? Okay. So, what's the key of what you're playing now? E major. Were we in E major? No, right? So, we're somewhere else. You know, different color, different presentation. You know, I mean, it's really important to remember that Beethoven said that he never chose the character of his piece before he knew what the key was going to be, you know? So he assigned a tremendous importance to the key as indicator of character. Now, this is not changing the key of the piece. I mean, I realize the piece is still in D major, but for now, you're going to be playing in E major for a little while, right? And so the relationship, what were we in before? What was the key? F major, exactly. So we weren't in D major anyway, right? So we've moved away from D major, and after F major to go to E major, not exactly the most traditional modulation. And anyway, he doesn't do modulation, he just moves. Okay, I had enough of this, you know, not E major. So, you know, I think it needs to be more significant, and you have to think of what color you think this is. You know, because in the end, what else do we have? We have sound, right? And so the sound has to express everything, right? And so if it sounds more or less the same, then I don't know that there was a new event that happened, right? Okay? So do one more time from before. I would say almost, okay? I would suggest that maybe once we start it right there so that you actually decide how you want to play it, okay? But the one thing that for sure is different, you had da-da-da-dee-da-da-da-dee-da-dee-da-da. There was a lot of small segments, you know, in dialogue, right? Here, you join together to play something long. So again, the shape is completely different, you know, and you need to start the shape from the beginning. You see, so if you start more or less the same as what the gestures were before, and then switch in the middle because, oops, I forgot that, you know, it's different, we're not able to really notice what's going on. Okay, so let's once start from the E major, okay? Okay, and we modulated now somewhere else, right? This was much better. So did you notice what you were doing at the beginning? So how are you going to connect from before is the question, you know, and these are the questions, you know, there are a lot of new things starting fairly often. You can't connect them seamlessly because then we don't notice them, you know, and you don't want to have a situation where you say, maybe she started something new there. You know, you want to know now. You see, so the question is, how are you going to do this connection? You're afraid to take time, so you just go exactly in time. Doing it in time is difficult to impossible, I would say. You know, so the way to figure it out is really to start it there, to see how it works best, and then to figure out how are you going to connect, right? You know, and don't be afraid if it's going to take some time. You know, the worst thing that can happen is that you'll do it and you'll say, too much. Okay, so next time you'll do less. You know, I mean, it's not a tragedy, right? You see, and I think that when I say experiment, that's what I mean. You don't even know what's too much until you do it once. And I don't advocate too much. Too much is terrible, just as bad as too little. You know, it's not better. But you don't know what it is until you try it once. You see, and if you are kind of stuck in the, I'm not going to take any time ever, you know, then you don't know, right? So there, and maybe it'll be too much, so fine. Okay? So do you want to do for before? And you lead them, because this is really yours to start. Okay, so let me ask, what do you think? Did you take time? Not enough. No, not enough. Yeah. You see, you didn't take time, but you also didn't change the sound to tell me this is going to be a long line, and you didn't change the sound to tell me this is E major, right? So there are a lot of things that you need to switch, you know, and that's why you need the time also. You know, but we, the listeners, we need the time. You see, because we also have to process the information, right? So, I mean, I'll let you tinker with that when you rehearse, we'll go on. But I mean, I want you to really think about that, you know, that taking time is okay. You know, because, I mean, you know, we have these formulaic statements that we make. In Baroque, you don't take any time. In classical music, you take a little time. In romantic music, you take a lot of time, blah, blah, blah. You know, I think it's nonsense. You know, I mean, time is essential to music. You know, if we define music as sound traveling through space, travel is about time, right? So how does it travel, right? So sometimes you have to take time, right? And I think it's really important to incorporate that and not to be afraid. You know, people always say, but I'll be late. And my question is, for what? Right? What does it mean I'll be late? right? Anyway, let's go on from the E major. Okay, so now we're in A major, and what is the general mood? Is it relaxed? Is it intense? Is it what? What?
It's a certain sense of, I guess, whispered intensity.
Yes, I think so. I think it is. Because we don't know where this is going, right? So if I hear da 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 da, that's a little bit like scales, right? So we really need to feel the tension, but I also want to hear the shapes. So you have da 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 dee da dee da dee da da da, and another da 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 dee da dee da dee da da da. Now da 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 dee da dee da dee da dee da 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 dee. So you have 2 times an up and a down, and then 4 times up, 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 up. No, 3 ups and down, right? So it's a different shape, right? And you want to feel that, right? You want to really play the shapes. Is it the same as the first time? No. I mean, this should be shocking. And I think Beethoven loves to shock. I don't think Schubert is into shocking, but Beethoven loves to shock, And so I think we need to really feel the shock of what? Right? It seemed seamless. It seemed easy. And I don't think in this case it should be. So can you do from da 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 dee da 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 dee da 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 da? Actually, you could do from the second one when the piano takes over. That's better. I think it's harsh. Touchy, right? So do this again. Try not to hit it. Wait. So where does it relax?
I think at the D major.
Hmm?
At the D major.
We haven't gotten there yet. Well, I mean, certainly not on the B. I think when you play the C sharp and it becomes a 7th chord, you know where it's going, and you can then change from intensity to, oh, okay, I know where I'm going, but for as long as you don't know where you're going, I think the intensity continues. You could do a diminuendo, then there's nothing to do with it, but I mean, the message is, kind of blurred if you all of a sudden, become very comfortable about that chord, which is uncomfortable because we don't know where we are, right? Because where do we have to go? We have to get to where? D major. Well, not A major, no, because we should be in the dominant, right? So the dominant, it's not in A, in D major eventually, right? I mean, we're headed to the development, right? So, where do you want to start? Can't hear you at all. I mean, I'm looking and I'm trying. Match the sound of the piano. He's playing really quite softly, So it's not about the piano covering you, it's about you not making a sound. And I mean, it's a unison, I understand we have an A already, doesn't add, so to speak, anything, but it's supposed to be there, and I don't hear it. You could do from team, ba da 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 da. So I have a question. The A's. What's their function? What do they do?
We describe them in past coachings or past rehearsals as the musical equivalent of ellipses. Sort of trail away before either once again presenting the shock of the beginning or mental development.
Well, it doesn't sound like it, though. I mean, it sounds like da, 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 da. So play the last chord, and then just play the A's. I mean, I think it's too much of an ending. I mean, there's really, after that, nothing. There's nothing that could come out of that, We died. I don't think you should slow it down that much. If you mean to trail off, then trail off, but it doesn't mean it has to be slow, right? So the character is playful, right? It's a little too careful. Group notes together. Individual notes played separately. It's like reading a book letter by letter. We don't do that. I mean, our job is to string notes together into logical groups, and so I need to hear what you think about these notes. So is there any place where you're surprised? You see, I think that it's really an important thing to remember. Just like in language, there are rules to music, right? And if we follow the rules to the letter, then most of us who have heard music before have made the connections, and we kind of anticipate things to sound based on the rules. It's when the rule is broken, you know, for some reason. The composer decides that he doesn't want to do what the rule dictates, but wants rather to change things. That's when interesting things happen, right? Because what you anticipate is nice, but not incredibly interesting, right? And so I'm asking, you know, is there some place where things change in a way that you didn't anticipate? Well, yeah, I mean, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. So if you played exactly the same, you know, you're saying nothing here, nothing interesting, you know, just notes, right? I'd like to hear that it's not true. Yes, but I mean, this is the beginning of something new too, right? I mean, there were so many surprises here. I mean, this was really wild, I would say. It didn't sound like it. The character remained the same. You know, we don't have time, unfortunately, but I really think that you should look at all of the times when Beethoven breaks the rules. You know, I mean, you know, he did it completely knowingly. This was not accidental, and I think it always has a purpose, you know, but I think we, the listeners, have to understand what you think about these deviations from the norm, you know, because those are the things that make music interesting, you know, and I think that you could do a better job of really defining all of these moments, you know. I mean, it's anticipated that the development section has most of them. That's not shocking, you know, but it's interesting. And it would be really great if we would hear that, you know, harmonically it's quite interesting. And I think you could do a little bit more with it, you know. And the last thing I want to say is that this is an incredibly energetic movement. And in order to perform energetically, you have to participate physically in the gesture. So if I see that doesn't look energetic, right? So you have to really participate, or else it's not going to sound energetic. You know, it's true of pianists too, but I don't play the piano, so I don't know what to do. But you know, I speak to string players. It's really important to understand that you can't say, I'm all relaxed about this, but you feel that this is energetic. I mean, you can say it, but it doesn't work. So just remember that we need to physically participate in whatever character we want to present. Okay? Very good. Bravo. Beautiful. Before we start talking about details in the movement, I'd like to just address some of the acoustical difficulties of this piece. And there are some. One of them is when you have a relatively longer note and then 2/16 notes afterwards. Unfortunately, I would say I didn't hear about 95% of them, and so we have to devise a system by which we can overcome that. One of the things that's important to remember is that if you sustain a longer note and then play short notes right after without doing something in between, they are most likely going to disappear, okay? And so there are different things you can do. You can re-articulate. And when you play with the piano, one will not hear that re-articulation, but will hear the notes, right? You can diminuendo a little bit on the longer note and re-articulate, but you have to really, at least with your fingers, articulate the 16th notes seriously, because otherwise we just don't hear it, And it is problematic because I think that a lot of the character of the movement really depends on this ta-da-da, ta-da-da, ta. There is a kind of anxiety that is built into the movement that really depends on it, you see? So that's the one thing. I think also the rest that comes before it is part of it. And so the quality of the rest is very important. If you're comfortable in the rest, it's going to be less effective than if you really feel the rest as a ta-da-da, ta-da-da. And throughout, I was missing that. The other thing is a bad habit of all violinists, me included. We always diminuendo to oblivion when we have a longer note and a shorter note after that. So if you have T-up, because of what the piano is playing, I just don't hear it. So resolutions, it's usually appoggiaturas, and then the note that is missing is the resolution. Now if you don't have the resolution, then you don't have the appoggiatura either. It's just a note, right? So that is problematic. And the last thing that is specific to this movement, when you play ti-la-da-da-da-da-dum, you rush the da-da-da-da-dum consistently. I think that it becomes much stronger if you don't. Really articulate with the bow very carefully and make sure that you really play 4 notes, not a gesture. You're trying so hard to make the gesture that we can't hear anything, and I don't think it's necessary. Now, Schumann, of all composers, I think, has the unique and miraculous ability to express the range of human emotions. And he condenses just about all of them into this movement. He goes from dramatic to tender to anguished to exuberant. You name it, it's here. And I think that we could use a little bit more specificity in all of them. I have a question to you. When the theme appears in the chords, you choose to play it very slowly.
In the beginning?
No, beginning is fine, but later. Why?
Oh, you mean the
Like here, for example. I mean, really slowly. You actually play it slower than the beginning, where it says to play it slower.
That was just that, I was thinking about along 310 I guess that translated to a slower tempo.
I don't think I would do it, because I think that there is something about the construction of it, that comes offbeat, and, that gets lost if it takes too long between, things, then we don't know. Schumann does this often. The theme appears after the introduction, which is normal, except that the introduction includes the theme in a broken up way. And I think that you could do a better job of making sure that we hear that. So the relationship between the chords is important, and I was missing some of that. You see, I don't think it's a matter of tempo. I thought the tempo of the beginning was perfect, but yom, pom. Rests can have different roles, right? A rest could be a rest, to rest from something that you just finished before you start something new. But rest can also generate an incredible amount of intensity. In this case, that's the kind of rest you have. And I would like to hear that a little bit better. Okay? So can we start from the beginning, please? Yeah, so what does it say? Eighth note.
Energetic.
Yeah, okay. But I think that rather than energetic, it's abrupt. You see, I hear it, I would like to hear it as a melody. So if I hear, I don't really hear connection. Right, so this, it's connected. Okay, now we have 3 steps. They shouldn't sound identical, right? Okay, that was better. The A, the long A, what happens during that A?
Takes us to the dominant note.
Yeah, but I mean, once you're on it, it's transforming the character from being incredibly articulate to being incredibly lyrical, right? So if you disappear, right, then I don't know that, right? And you, unlike the piano, have the opportunity to actually do something on that note. The piano, it decays and that's it. But I mean, you can do something, and I'd like to hear, the transformation of character. This is not primarily about getting softer. It's primarily about starting from a very emphatic beginning and by the end becoming generous and beautiful, right? You don't have to play the whole thing, just play hum, bum, ba-dum. Couple of things I'd like to say. First of all, don't throw your bow. Place it and draw out the sound, because if you throw the bow, you don't do that. The other thing is if you lift your right foot while playing like this, you compromise your right arm. There's absolutely no question about it, right? So you want to be as balanced as possible. This is not a time to lift your, and you lifted all of it. It wasn't a heel or, it was just off. So you just don't want to do that. You see, and I mean, when we play, we don't want to be thinking about our feet. I understand that, I also don't. But, I think you need to really feel balanced, and this way I don't really think you can, right? Okay, okay. Now, you see what you're doing? You're like this, right? Now, I mean, anything like that prevents you from having complete freedom of what you do with your arm, right? And by the way, you're not a short person, but even for you, it's hard to control the bow at the tip. Well, help yourself, come closer. You know, you don't have to keep your bow, your violin here. You know, you can easily accommodate it by coming closer so that you actually have the best control possible, right? Because you really want it there. Just play the A, it's fine. Okay, so what is this little cadenza? What does it do? Embellishes what?
Transforms from the beginning to the next.
It does, but you know, we're sitting on what? What is the chord? The dominant. So it's basically a little cadenza on the dominant. Right? I don't know. I would slide like that into the, you know, the B flat, because I think the B flat is a decoration of the A. You see? So if and this is so right?
Yeah.
Those are the notes you need. So what are you doing here? What are you doing? What is your role? You know, the piano took over, it's playing the theme, we know. And what are you doing?
And sort of the sound that's in his head, the afterthought of the persistent theme.
Yeah, but you're telling a story, right? I hear ti-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. You know, I don't hear a story. There's one word here and one word there, and they're not really connected. Ta-dee-da-da-dee, ta-dee-da-da-dee. And what is the overriding emotion of this story?
It's quite rhapsodic, quite free in a way, overcharged, you know.
Free is not an emotion that I'm talking about here. You know, I think you need to get into the habit of being able to describe with words what it is that you mean, because I do believe that you have a vague notion of what you want, but it's not defined and it's not 100% clear. And I always tell the same thing. You could play anything, any which way you want, except I'm not sure. How do you play I'm not sure, or I don't know? You see? And the thing, you know, we have one advantage over, let's say, surgeons or engineers. You try it and it was no good. You throw it in the trash and you move on, They try it, and it's no good. It's terrible, you see. So there's no danger. And I think it's something that should free you to experiment, because I don't know you yet, but I sense that there's a lot in there, and you want a lot of things, and you don't dare to do some of them. And I encourage you to try every single one of them, and then little by little you discard what you don't like. But you don't know if you don't like it until you tried it, you know, because in principle, one doesn't know. You know, I've tried so many things I thought were great, and then they turn out to be terrible. So, you know, you just don't know, right? So I think there is a lot of pent-up emotion here, you know? And I think, you know, I was talking about it before, the body needs to assume the motions that will describe the emotion of what we play. And so if you move very freely, it's not going to sound anxious. Or if you move very calmly, it's not going to be energetic, et cetera, et cetera. And so you need to know what you mean exactly, and then you need to find a way to move in order to describe it. Okay? So can we start from the ti da di da da da? Wait. I think this chord is very special. Yeah, so the sound needs to be very special. I think you also need to use your vibrato a little bit more imaginatively, you know, because you resort, I think, too often to a fast vibrato. Now think about what sound it is that you want, and adjust the vibrato to that. Okay? Do this one more time. Yeah, I think this was good, but you don't allow it to open enough. I think here. So this is almost scary, I would say. But, yeah, I think that E belongs with a chord, and I think it needs to have a little more chord to the sound. I think the question of chord to the sound is very important, actually, because, you know, we can communicate in a whisper. There's no question about it, you know, but it's probably not a great idea to communicate in a whisper always, right? And so I would say that you want to save those moments for special events, right? And the norm of a sound is with core, right? So I'm here and I'm speaking with you and I'm telling you a story, and this is the emotion of the story, blah, 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 right? And then when you want something very special, then you can whisper. But I don't think that as a general rule, it's a very good idea to mostly whisper. You know, and I'm sometimes missing the core to the sound. bow. Move your bow. That sound does not go anywhere. Okay, great. So we know that you can make a sound because you demonstrate here and there that you really can make a sound. It's not that you don't know how. So what you do sometimes as a choice is problematic because it doesn't communicate. You see, you need to figure out what do I hear when you do that. You see? And not me personally, but me, your listener. You see? And you have to ask yourself that question. And sometimes I feel that you don't. And then we just don't know. Because for example, it is such a romantically charged thing, and yet your bow moves in an even speed, so it's not going to get all of the different nuances of romantic expression. You have to look for it, and you have to want it to speak to others, to speak to your listener. It's really important. So I think both in principle and in the sense of gauging things, you tend to start a way down from such a low point that you inevitably get to a place where we can't hear anything. And mind you, it's not even enough that we just hear something. We need to hear specifically what it is you want us to hear, right? So specificity requires a certain amount of sound, right? And you have to really, really think about it. I'd like to hear a little bit of the Allegro part, because I would like to hear you using, what I said about the articulation of the 16th notes. Okay, I'd like you to think of the accents on the long notes without allowing them to make all the notes the same. Because the shape of the phrase, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, rather than 1, 1, 1, 1, right? And if you articulate exactly the same way, that's what we hear, right? Stand up. Don't rush the ya-da-da-dam, ta-da-da-dam. It is actually too fast. Pa-da-da-dam. Can you do it right there? I don't hear the D. I don't hear the D. Ti, da, di, ti, dum, pa, di, You see, the G sharp doesn't have any meaning without the D. Because the D is what you anticipate, the G sharp is not. So you really want to differentiate, but you can only do it if you have the first one.
Right.
Yeah? So do from D, la, da, da, Just a D minor. Yeah, okay. Unfortunately, we have practically no time left. I'd like to just finish by saying that I would like you also to think about how you connect notes in order to make a line. So what we call a legato doesn't only depend on whether you play it in one bow or not, but it mostly depends on the fact that the end of note number 1 and the beginning of note number 2 should be the same sound, right? So, right? You know, what I'm hearing is that you go in and out of the sound, and so it's difficult to hear that they belonged together. So you have to decide. Sometimes they don't. You know, it's not all notes have to be connected in a legato, but I think it is rather important. So your bow speed needs to be the same, your weight of the arm needs to be the same, the vibrato needs to be the same in that moment of connection, right? And especially when it is not on the same bow. But also when it is on the same bow, right? It needs to be smooth in the connection, because if it's not smooth, we do not perceive a legato, right? And I think it really is very important that we should. Good, very good. Thank you. I would like to say goodbye. We have spent many afternoons like this together. I recognize many of you in the audience, and I appreciate the fact that you kept coming. And this is the last one. So it's been a wild ride, and I loved every minute of it, and I'm grateful to have had the opportunity, but it's time for me to go. And so I wish all of you all the very best, and I look forward to my new adventures. And so goodbye, and thank you.